Buying the wrong EV right now isn't just a bad decision, it's a financial trap. With obsolete tech, glitchy software, and plummeting resale values, certain models are absolute nightmares to own. In this video, we break down 9 electric cars nobody should buy in 2026 and the exact reasons you need to run away from them. Number 9. Nissan Ariya. The Nissan Ariya presents a frustrating case of a decent car undone by circumstances that make it a poor purchase in 2026, and the reasons start with availability itself. Nissan has effectively pulled the Ariya from the US market for the 2026 model year, pausing production and imports largely because the Japan-built crossover got slapped with a steep 15% import tariff that wrecked its pricing math. Buying a vehicle the manufacturer is actively backing away from is a risky proposition, because it raises immediate questions about long-term parts availability, resale value, and how committed the brand remains to supporting it. Even setting the tariff drama aside, the Ariya was already struggling to justify itself against sharper rivals. Its range lands in merely mediocre territory, and its fast-charging speeds fail to impress in a segment where quick top-ups have become the expectation rather than the exception. For a first-time or value-focused buyer, that combination of average range and unremarkable charging is a real letdown. What truly sinks the Ariya, though, is its pricing relative to the competition. It costs noticeably more than standout rivals like the Chevrolet Equinox EV, which delivers dramatically more range for less money, leaving the Ariya looking overpriced and outclassed. When a vehicle asks for a premium yet trails its competitors on the metrics that matter most to EV shoppers, the value equation collapses entirely. Add in the uncertainty surrounding its very future in America, and the Ariya becomes an easy skip. Nobody should invest in an electric crossover that's simultaneously overpriced, outperformed, and being quietly ushered out the door by its own maker. Number 8. Audi Q4 e-tron. The Audi Q4 e-tron carries the prestige of a 4-ring badge, but in 2026 that prestige can't paper over a growing list of problems that make it a questionable buy. The most damning issue is software, an area where owners have voiced persistent frustration over a clunky, unreliable infotainment system plagued by glitches and poor support. When a luxury vehicle's technology feels dated and buggy, it undermines the entire premium experience buyers are paying extra to enjoy. Compounding the software woes, the Q4 has been caught up in recalls, including one affecting tens of thousands of vehicles over a software fault tied to shift lever indicators. Hardly the kind of reliability record that inspires confidence in a pricey electric SUV. Beyond the digital headaches, the Q4 e-tron simply feels like yesterday's technology wearing a fresh coat of paint. Reviewers have noted that the updates amount to little more than cosmetic tweaks on a fundamentally aging platform, and its range and charging figures, once respectable, now look distinctly average against newer rivals that have leapfrogged it. Paying luxury money for merely average performance is a poor bargain. The design itself has drawn criticism too, with some describing its fussy, overwrought detailing as visually tiring rather than elegant. Perhaps most damaging is the value problem. The Q4 e-tron occupies an awkward middle ground where it's too expensive to compete with excellent mainstream EVs, yet not compelling enough to justify itself against sharper luxury alternatives. Squeezed from both sides and burdened by software gremlins and a stale foundation, the Q4 e-tron asks buyers to overpay for an outdated, glitch-prone experience. In a market brimming with fresher, more reliable choices, there's little reason to sign up for its shortcomings. Number 7. Volkswagen ID.4. The Volkswagen ID.4 has become a cautionary tale of electric ownership gone wrong, and 2026 does nothing to redeem its troubled reputation. The single most alarming reason to avoid it is its staggering history of recalls and defects, some of them genuinely serious. The ID.4 has been subject to a stop sale over door handles that could allow doors to open unexpectedly, plus a recall of tens of thousands of vehicles over a high-voltage battery overheating and fire risk. Safety concerns of that magnitude are not minor inconveniences, and they should give any prospective buyer serious pause. Beyond the headline-grabbing recalls, the ID.4 has been dogged by chronic software problems that owners describe as maddening. Reports of frozen or randomly blacking out infotainment screens, unresponsive touch controls, and buggy updates paint a picture of a vehicle whose technology was rushed to market before it was ready. One long-term owner review lamented an unreal number of recalls and issues on a car with barely 35,000 miles, which is exactly the kind of experience nobody wants from a supposedly modern EV. The ID.4's infamous capacitive touch controls and clumsy interface have drawn years of criticism for being unintuitive and distracting, turning simple tasks into exercises in frustration. When you combine serious safety recalls, persistent software instability, and a user interface that owners actively dislike, you get a vehicle whose ownership experience is riddled with aggravation and uncertainty. Trust, once broken by fire risks and doors popping open, is extraordinarily hard to rebuild. With so many dependable, well-executed electric SUVs now available, subjecting yourself to the ID.4's documented reliability and safety headaches makes little sense. Number 6. Mazda MX-30. The Mazda MX-30 earns its place on this list by committing the one sin an electric car truly cannot afford: it barely goes anywhere on a charge. This is the EV that reviewers have openly crowned among the worst electric cars around, and the reason is brutally simple. Its range hovers at roughly 100 miles, and real-world owners frequently report even less, with some seeing figures dip into the high 80s. In an era when competitors routinely deliver 250 to 300 miles or more, a 100-mile electric car feels less like a modern vehicle and more like a science experiment that escaped the lab. That crippling range limitation poisons the entire ownership proposition. It means constant charging, relentless range anxiety, and an inability to take even modest road trips without meticulous planning, transforming what should be liberating electric driving into a source of perpetual stress. For most American buyers whose driving needs regularly exceed 100 miles, the MX-30 simply cannot function as a primary vehicle. What makes the situation worse is that Mazda doesn't give the car away in exchange for its shortcomings. Its pricing sits at a level that feels indefensible given how little range and practicality you receive, leaving buyers paying real money for a vehicle that can't do what nearly every rival does effortlessly. The MX-30 does have some redeeming qualities in styling and driving feel, but those charms crumble instantly against the reality of stopping to charge every couple of days. An electric car's fundamental job is to provide usable, worry-free range, and the MX-30 fails that basic test more completely than almost anything else on sale. Nobody shopping for a genuine, everyday EV should consider it. Number 5. Jeep Wagoneer S. The Jeep Wagoneer S arrives with serious power and genuine straight-line speed, but in 2026 the reasons to avoid it have little to do with performance and everything to do with how it's built and how it drives. Critics who have spent real time with it have questioned the build quality directly, describing the SUV as feeling cheap and shoddily assembled in places, which is a damning assessment for a vehicle wearing a premium price tag. When reviewers openly wonder whether a car is well-made, that's a red flag no amount of horsepower can wave away. The driving experience draws even sharper criticism. One first drive review labeled it a rough draft, singling out a chassis that flops into corners and gets completely unsettled by even minor road imperfections. That kind of unrefined behavior undermines the composure buyers expect at this level, making the Wagoneer S feel unfinished rather than polished. Fast in a straight line is easy. Being genuinely good to live with on real roads is the hard part, and this is where the Wagoneer S stumbles. The pricing amplifies every flaw. The Wagoneer S commands premium money, and at that level, questionable assembly quality and a jittery ride become impossible to overlook. Buyers spending this much deserve a cohesive, well-sorted machine, not one that feels like it needed more development time before reaching showrooms. Jeep clearly has the ingredients here, with strong power and around 300 miles of range, but the execution lets it down in ways that matter every single day. Until the build quality and ride are properly addressed, spending big on the Wagoneer S is a gamble, and that's why it lands squarely on this list. Number 4. Toyota BZ4X. The Toyota BZ4X stands as proof that even the world's most trusted automaker can badly misjudge an electric car, and its lingering flaws make it a difficult buy in 2026. Toyota built its empire on bulletproof reliability and hybrid excellence, yet its first dedicated EV arrived riddled with the exact shortcomings that scare people away from electric vehicles. The original BZ4X earned widespread criticism for conservative, frustratingly slow charging speeds and lackluster range, a damaging combination for a company that should have known better. Reviewers documented charging performance so sluggish that the all-wheel drive versions could take nearly an hour to crawl from 20 to 80%, an eternity by modern standards that turns any road trip into a test of patience. While Toyota has worked to improve the 2026 version with better charging and range figures, the pointed question critics keep raising is whether the fixes arrived too late to matter. The EV market has advanced so rapidly that a car playing catch-up struggles to stand out, and the BZ4X's reputation for underwhelming performance has already stuck in buyers' minds. First impressions in the electric world are hard to shake, and the BZ4X made a poor one. Beyond charging, the vehicle has never fully distinguished itself in a crowded field where rivals offer more range, faster replenishment, and often better value. For a brand whose entire identity rests on getting the fundamentals right, the BZ4X's stumble is especially glaring. Buyers drawn by the Toyota badge expecting class-leading dependability and efficiency may find themselves disappointed by an EV that trails the competition on the metrics that define electric ownership. With stronger, more proven alternatives everywhere, the BZ4X remains a tough sell even to Toyota faithful. Number 3. GMC Hummer EV. The GMC Hummer EV is a jaw-dropping feat of engineering that also happens to be one of the most sensible vehicles to avoid in 2026, and the core problem is its sheer absurd mass. This electric behemoth tips the scales at roughly 9,000 pounds, a weight so extreme it has sparked genuine safety concerns among critics who worry about the danger such a heavy vehicle poses to everyone else on the road. That colossal weight isn't just a safety talking point, it actively sabotages the Hummer's efficiency in ways that undermine the entire point of going electric. The Hummer's massive bulk makes it the enemy of efficiency, with an EPA rating that lands shockingly low for an electric vehicle, meaning it guzzles electricity at a rate that erases much of the environmental and cost-benefit buyers expect from an EV. Paying premium prices to drive an electric vehicle that sips energy inefficiently defeats the purpose entirely. And premium those prices are, as the Hummer commands an eye-watering sum that places it firmly in luxury territory, asking buyers to spend enormous money on a vehicle whose practical drawbacks are as oversized as its dimensions. The Hummer EV is undeniably impressive as a spectacle, a rolling demonstration of what's technically possible, but spectacle doesn't translate into sound ownership. For the overwhelming majority of buyers, sinking a fortune into a 9,000-pound energy hog is exactly the wrong way to go electric. Number 2. Volvo X30. The Volvo X30 arrives wrapped in Scandinavian charm and a trusted safety-focused badge, yet beneath that appealing surface lie issues serious enough to land it near the top of this avoid list for 2026. The X30's troubles have centered heavily on execution and reliability, with early examples plagued by software problems and quality concerns that clashed sharply with the polished image Volvo works hard to project. When a brand built on dependability and peace of mind ships a vehicle dogged by digital gremlins and teething troubles, it betrays the very expectations that draw buyers to it. Much of the frustration stems from the X30's minimalist, screen-centric interface, which routes nearly every function through a single central display. While that stripped-down approach looks clean and modern, it proves genuinely aggravating in daily use, forcing drivers to dig through menus for basic controls that should be simple physical buttons. This kind of over-reliance on touchscreen interaction is not only annoying but potentially distracting, an ironic misstep for a company that prides itself on safety. The X30's compact dimensions, while helpful for city parking, also translate into a snug interior that some buyers find cramped for the money, limiting its practicality as a do-everything vehicle. Then there's the value question, because as the X30 climbs in price, it bumps against more established, more capable rivals that make it harder to justify. Buyers expecting flawless Volvo refinement may be surprised to encounter a car whose reality doesn't quite match its premium promise. When you factor in the software instability, the frustrating interface, the tight packaging, and pricing that grows uncomfortable, the X30 becomes a vehicle that looks far more appealing on paper than it proves in ownership. There are simply more dependable ways to spend the money. Number 1. Honda Prologue. The Honda Prologue tops this list with an especially damning distinction. It was named the number 1 electric SUV to avoid by one of the most respected consumer testing organizations in the country. When Consumer Reports singles out a vehicle as the electric SUV to steer clear of, that carries enormous weight, and it should stop any Prologue shopper in their tracks. The core issue is that despite wearing a Honda badge synonymous with reliability and thoughtful engineering, the Prologue isn't truly a ground-up Honda at all, but a rebadged product built on General Motors underpinnings. And it inherits many of the same flaws that plagued its GM-based siblings. Reviewers have pointed to a frustrating list of shortcomings, including lethargic, disconnected steering that saps any driving enjoyment, compromised outward visibility that makes the vehicle harder to place on the road, and front seats criticized for lacking proper support on longer drives. These aren't trivial nitpicks but fundamental usability problems that affect every single trip. For a brand that earned its reputation by nailing the everyday driving experience, the Prologue's clumsy dynamics and ergonomic missteps feel like a genuine betrayal of what buyers expect from Honda. Owners have also flagged concerns about public charging costs and the realities of living with the vehicle day to day, further denting its appeal. What makes the Prologue especially disappointing is that many loyal Honda customers bought it on faith in the badge, only to discover a vehicle that doesn't deliver the polish they trusted. When a car earns an official recommendation to avoid, combines borrowed engineering with mediocre execution, and disappoints the very brand faithful it was meant to win over, it earns the top spot without contest. Nobody should buy the Prologue expecting classic Honda excellence. And with this, we have reached the end of this video. Make sure to like it and subscribe the channel for future upcoming videos.